Welcome to ND Love Story, where love stories are told with raw emotions and captivating storytelling. If you enjoy heartfelt and mesmerizing love stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to ND Love Story so you won't miss any episode. Life always has a way of arranging unexpected things in its own way. I'm Aiden Carter, 30 years old, a lawyer specializing in corporate law, and I had just moved to New York City to work at one of the most prestigious law firms in the city. The new job offered me a lot of opportunities, but it also came with a ton of pressure. With a packed schedule and long nights at the office, I never bothered to get a health checkup. However, according to company policy, I was required to complete a general medical exam within the first 3 months, even though I'd put it off for almost the entire allowed time. One late night, I found myself sitting in front of my computer screen, scrolling through the list of doctors in the insurance network. Most of the names were bland and didn't leave any impression, until I stopped at Dr. Lucas Bryant. His profile was impressive: graduate of Harvard Medical School, had numerous research papers published in reputable medical journals, and, specifically, specialized in LGBTQ+ healthcare. As a gay man, I'd had some unpleasant experiences with some doctors in the past, those probing stares, the suggestive questions that made me feel unwelcome. But with this specialization, Lucas might be the safest choice. I made an appointment for the following Monday morning and quickly forgot about it amidst a mountain of work. That Monday morning, I rushed to the clinic, a little late for my appointment because a meeting ran longer than expected. When I walked in, I was immediately impressed by the space. The clinic was completely different from typical medical offices. Natural light flooded in through the large windows. The interior design was minimalist but sophisticated, and instead of the strong smell of disinfectant, there was a subtle scent of wood in the air. I went to the reception desk, where an employee greeted me with a bright smile. "Mr. Carter? Dr. Bryant is waiting for you in exam room number 3. Please follow me." I followed her down the hallway, the abstract paintings hanging on the walls making it feel like I was stepping into an art gallery instead of a medical facility. The door opened, and I saw Dr. Lucas Bryant for the first time. He was standing by his desk, reviewing my medical file, about 6'1", with a lean build, broad shoulders, slightly messy brown hair, and sharp gray eyes. The white coat couldn't hide his solid physique underneath. When he looked up and looked directly at me, there was a brief moment, but it was enough for me to sense something different. "Aiden Carter?" He extended his hand for a handshake. I shook his hand, his palm warm and firm. "Yes, that's me. Sorry I'm late." "No problem. I understand how busy things can get. Please have a seat, and we'll get started right away." I took a deep breath and sat down. For some reason, I had a feeling that this meeting wouldn't just be a regular checkup. I sat down in the chair in the exam room, trying to maintain a calm demeanor. But even as an experienced lawyer, I couldn't deny that there was something about Dr. Lucas Bryant that made me feel uneasy, not because of anxiety about the health exam, but because of his presence. I didn't usually find myself attracted to someone right away, but Lucas was different. He had a professional yet somewhat mysterious air about him, along with those sharp eyes that seemed to see right through you. I was aware of his every movement, from the way he opened my medical file to the way he pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose. "We'll start with some basic checks," Lucas said, his voice deep and warm, carrying the calmness of someone who was used to making patients feel comfortable. I nodded, trying to appear nonchalant. Lucas came closer, grabbed a blood pressure monitor, and wrapped it around my arm. The distance between us was so close that I could smell the subtle woody scent coming from him. A combination of sandalwood and something more masculine, with a hint of cool mint. "Just relax," he said, his fingers lightly tightening the cuff on my arm. Easier said than done. I felt my heart rate accelerate abnormally. But maybe it wasn't just the blood pressure monitor. Lucas stared at the display screen and frowned. "Your blood pressure is a little high." I chuckled softly, trying to hide my embarrassment. "I guess I'm just not a fan of going to the doctor." He smiled slightly. "You're not the first person to say that. We'll check it again later. For now, just take some deep breaths for me." He placed the stethoscope on my chest, his warm palm touching my back as he gently held it in place. The coldness of the stethoscope was in stark contrast to the warmth of his hand, creating a shiver that ran down my spine. "Deep breath in." I complied, but I couldn't stop my heart from beating faster as I realized how close we were. His eyes looked intently into mine, and for a brief moment, I had the feeling that he was noticing something similar as well. Lucas cleared his throat, quickly jotting something down in the file before turning back to me. "Everything sounds good so far. Now, I need you to change into a gown so I can examine your muscles and abdomen." He pointed towards the small changing room in the corner of the room. I went in, closed the door, and looked at myself in the mirror. Why do I feel so tense? This is just a normal checkup. Lucas certainly doesn't think anything of it, right? I took a deep breath, took off my shirt, and put on the flimsy paper gown, then stepped back out. Lucas stood there, his eyes scanning me for a fleeting second, but I noticed a very slight change in his expression, so quick that I wondered if I was imagining it. "Please have a seat on the exam table." I complied, feeling the thin paper under my back as Lucas came closer. He began to examine my abdominal muscles and hips, gently pressing on the muscles to check for stiffness and abnormalities. But each touch had a stronger effect than I expected. His hands were warm and steady. His movements were professional, but I couldn't help but notice how his fingers brushed lightly against my skin. "Do you feel any pain anywhere?" His voice was deep and gentle, so close that I could feel his breath lightly on my skin. I swallowed hard, trying to maintain a normal tone. "No, I'm fine." Lucas nodded, continuing to move down to examine my thigh and hip muscles, his hand pressing lightly on the upper part of my thigh. At that moment, I saw him pause slightly. Just a brief second, but enough for me to realize something. Our eyes met. There was an invisible tension in the air, a moment where we were both aware of something going on, but neither of us said anything. Lucas quickly turned away, pretending nothing had happened, but I could see a very faint blush on his neck, as if he was also struggling to control himself. "All right, now I'm going to check your back." He moved behind me, placing his hands on my shoulders to examine the muscle groups. His fingers pressed deeply into the tight spots, gently rubbing each vertebra, and I could feel his breath right near my ear. I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to calm myself, but the sensation was too intense. I wasn't just here for a health checkup. And if Lucas's gaze just now wasn't deceiving me, then maybe he was feeling the same thing. I left the clinic with a mixed feeling. There was no denying that there was an undeniable tension between Lucas and me. But was it real, or was it just my imagination playing tricks on me? Throughout the day, I tried to focus on my work, but failed miserably. Every moment in the exam room kept replaying in my head, the way he touched me, his fleeting, wavering gaze, the moment he paused when examining my body. If it was all just in my imagination, then why was my heart still racing every time I thought about it? 2 days later, I received an email from the clinic with the subject line, "Change of physician." A sudden feeling of disappointment washed over me. I opened the email with a glimmer of hope, but the content was exactly what I feared most. "Dear Aiden, we would like to inform you that Dr. Lucas Bryant has decided to transfer your medical file to Dr. Melissa Carter for continued healthcare. If you have any questions, please contact us. Sincerely, Bryant Clinic." I gripped my phone tightly. Lucas was avoiding me. No explanation, no prior call. He simply cut things off in the most professional way possible. I didn't know what I expected, that he would actively reach out, that he also felt something in that moment, but instead, he chose to push me away. That evening, after a few glasses of wine and an uncontrollable urge, I dialed Lucas's number. The phone rang 3 times before the familiar, warm voice answered. "Aiden?" Hearing his voice, all the anger, frustration, and longing inside me mixed into an indescribable emotion. "Are you going to explain?" I said, without needing to beat around the bush. Lucas sighed, a long silence stretching out before he replied. "Aiden, we can't do this. I'm your doctor. That's a line I shouldn't cross." I laughed, a not-so-happy laugh. "You crossed that line the moment you looked at me the way you did in the exam room." He didn't answer right away. I could imagine him struggling with himself, as if he was trying to force himself to do the right thing, but couldn't deny the obvious truth between us. "I transferred you to another doctor," he finally said. "We have no reason to contact each other anymore. Lucas, don't pretend like there's nothing between us. I know you felt it too." A long breath echoed on the other end of the line. "Aiden, I don't know what to do with this." I gripped the phone tighter. That answer wasn't a rejection, it was an acknowledgement. And that meant this conversation wasn't over. I hung up the phone, my heart pounding in my chest. The conversation with Lucas still echoed in my mind, each word like a storm sweeping through my emotions. He didn't deny what I said. He didn't deny the feeling between us. But he also didn't allow himself to touch it. I should have let it go. But I couldn't. 3 days later, as I was leaving the office after work, my phone rang. Lucas. I stared at the screen for a long moment, debating whether to answer or not. Finally, I swiped my finger and brought the phone to my ear. Aiden, are you free? His voice was deeper. There was a hesitation that I'd never heard before. I thought you said we shouldn't contact each other. I know, he sighed, but I think we need to talk. In person. In just a few hours. I was at the small cafe near his clinic. The space was quiet. The yellow lights were soft. But nothing could calm the storm raging inside me. Lucas was already there, in a thin navy blue sweater and dark jeans. No longer the white coat or the distant professional face. For the first time I saw him outside of the hospital setting, a more real person. Less constrained. I shouldn't have come here. He started as I sat down. I've been struggling with this a lot. Aiden. I looked straight into his eyes. Not avoiding. What are you afraid of? Lucas tightened his grip on his coffee cup. His gaze wavering. I've always maintained my principles. He said slowly. In my 10 years as a doctor, I've never broken the line between myself and my patients. But you, he paused, his fingers unconsciously tightening on the cup. You make me lose control in a way I've never experienced. My heart clenched. Then why did you come here? He looked up, and in those gray eyes, I saw a deep struggle between reason and emotion. Because I can't stop thinking about you. That statement was like a lightning bolt striking my chest. All the pent-up emotions from so long surged to a peak. I leaned forward, almost whispering, then don't run away anymore. Lucas looked at me for a long time, as if he was struggling with himself. Then suddenly, he reached out and took my hand, which was resting on the table, the first touch outside of the exam room. It wasn't just a handshake. It was a surrender. Lucas had stopped running from what was burning between us. From that first touch, everything between Lucas and me changed in an irreversible way. We no longer went around in circles or denied anything. We entered that relationship with caution but no less intensely. The following weeks passed like a whirlwind. Lucas and I met whenever we could, late dinners after work. Lazy Sunday mornings on the sofa. Quick kisses before he rushed into a long shift. Each moment was precious, but also challenging, because we couldn't be public. Lucas still maintained the principle of not letting his personal life affect his career. In the medical world full of rules and judgmental stares, our relationship could become a topic of discussion and put him in a difficult situation. I understood that, but what I didn't anticipate was the level of harsh whispers. One morning, as I was working at the office, a text from Lucas popped up. Can you meet me tonight? It's important. Immediately, a feeling of unease crept into my heart. That evening, we met at Lucas's apartment. He looked more tense than usual, took off his coat, and leaned against the kitchen counter, crossing his arms as if he was trying to keep himself calm. What's wrong? I asked. He looked at me for a long moment before answering. They know. Aiden. My heart constricted. They? Lucas sighed, running his hand through his hair. The hospital administration. They heard rumors about our relationship. A colleague of mine said they're looking into whether there's a violation of professional ethics. I clenched my fist, a rage rising in my chest. This is your personal life. They have no right, but they do have the right if they believe it's affecting my work. Lucas came closer to me, placing his hands on my shoulders, his eyes filled with worry. Aiden, you're important to me, but I've also worked my whole life to build this career. I can't let it all fall apart because of gossip. I looked at him, feeling helpless for the first time. I didn't want him to have to choose between me and his career. So, what are you going to do? I asked, my voice slightly trembling. Lucas was silent for a moment. Then, he took a deep breath and said, I'm going to fight, not just for us, but for something bigger. I frowned. What do you mean? He took my hands tightly. I want to open my own clinic. A place where I can care for the LGBTQ+ community without fear of judgment. And I want you to help me do it. I looked at him, stunned. Lucas was proposing that we build a dream together. This was no longer just about me and him. This was about an entire community. A future. And I knew, Despite the difficulties, I would never turn my back on him. 8 months after that night, Lucas's clinic officially opened. We'd spent countless sleepless nights, working and fighting to make this dream a reality. I helped Lucas with legal planning, searching for funding, while he focused on medical expertise and recruiting staff. Every moment together wasn't just love, but also standing side by side for a goal greater than ourselves. On opening day, I stood beside Lucas as he cut the ribbon. The crowd applauded, congratulated us, but the most important thing was his gaze when he looked at me, a look full of pride, gratitude, and deeper than any words. As the guests gradually left, I planned to return to my apartment to rest after a busy few days. But Lucas took my hand, his eyes with something strange. "Come with me for a moment." Without waiting for me to react, he led me to the roof of the building. The night wind blew on my skin, cool but not enough to extinguish the thrill spreading in my chest. New York City glittered beneath us, the distant lights twinkling like thousands of stars. "I'm doing all this for a bigger reason," Lucas began, his voice warm but a little tense. "Not just for my career, not just for the community, but also for you." My heart squeezed. "Lucas?" But he reached into his coat pocket, taking out a small velvet box. I almost held my breath as he knelt down in front of me, his gray-blue eyes shining with deep love. "Aiden, from the first day you walked into my office, my life has changed forever." Every word he uttered etched deep into my heart. "I don't just love you, but I also admire you. I love your intelligence, your strength, and the way you make me lose control in a way that no one has ever done before." Lucas opened the ring box, revealing a simple but exquisite platinum ring. "Marry me." Those words were like a jolt of electricity running down my spine. Everything seemed to stop in that moment. No more whispers, no more fears, just me and the only man I knew I wanted to be with for the rest of my life. I didn't need to think. "Yes, Lucas, 1,000 times yes." He laughed, a relieved laugh, then placed the ring on my finger, pulling me into a deep kiss, full of passion but also filled with tenderness. Below us, the city continued to move, unaware that, on this rooftop, two people had just begun a new chapter in their lives.